The oceans of Viridian 6 did not roar, they shimmered. A vast expanse of cerulean light rippled beneath the cliffside palace, reflecting 100 fractured suns through the translucent dome of the sky-glass throne. From her perch high above it all, Queen Scarlet Hale stood motionless. To the people below, she was a myth, made of breath and precision, tall, raven-haired, with a gaze too ancient for 42 years. They said her bloodline carried not just the fire of Earth's last empire, but the quiet rage of stars long dead. Her ceremonial armor, threaded with living light, whispered telemetry from her kingdom. Every pulse of heat, every tremor in the crust, every breath drawn by her people, she felt it like it was part of her skin, and yet, today, she felt nothing. Her amber eyes stared through the sky glass where twin suns Velos and Rin waltzed in eclipse. A perfect alignment, one that hadn't occurred in over 500 years. Scholars claimed such events were signs of balance. But Scarlet had learned long ago that balance was a lie. There was only delay before the fall. Behind her, the silence fractured. "Your Majesty," came the voice of Chancellor Mara Yen, her chief political advisor and most loyal critic. "The Concord's emissary awaits you in the throne chamber. He bears a treaty and a deadline." Scarlet didn't turn. "Do they think fear wears a polite mask?" "They hope," Yen said with measured breath, "that you still value diplomacy over ghosts." Scarlet's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something sharper. "Then they should not have sent a man who wears another man's skin." Mara flinched. The Queen's visions had grown more precise and more disturbing. Scarlet had not slept in 3 nights. Not truly. When she closed her eyes, she no longer dreamed of Earth or of Viridian's verdant floating forests. Instead, she saw geometries that bled, obsidian machines breathing in patterns, and voices like broken glass whispering in a language she'd never learned but somehow understood. Last night, one word repeated itself endlessly. "Virith?" it echoed. Now in the walls of her skull, buried under the surface of thought like a pulse beneath bruised skin. The throne chamber was a cathedral of controlled light, where walls of memory reactive crystal pulsed with the Queen's presence. The emissary from the interplanetary Concord stood at the center, draped in white robes lined with gold data thread. His eyes scanned the chamber the way a wolf surveys the edge of a forest, calculating distance, threat, and exit. "Queen Hale," he said, bowing with a practiced grace. "High Chancellor Velan extends his regards and wishes to avoid unnecessary—" "Occupation," Scarlet interrupted, stepping forward. "You were going to say conflict at Tichin, but your mind whispered occupation. Don't apologize. Truth is a rare currency in your Concord." He hesitated. "We mean only to offer protection. You offered protection to Erixa." Her voice was low, cold. "Now its oceans are mining pits, and its cities bear your flag. No, Viridian is not a subject world." A subtle twitch in his right brow. "Refusal may have consequences." She descended the final step of the sky-glass platform, the echo of her heels like gunshots in the quiet. "So will insistence." There it was, the moment, the flicker in his posture, the calculated exhale, the realization that she wasn't here to negotiate. The emissary reached for the datapad embedded in his sleeve, likely coded with threat assessments, withdrawal clauses, perhaps even a digital seed to spy on her systems. Scarlet raised one hand. Every screen in the chamber blinked dark. Every light dimmed except the glow from her armor. She looked into his eyes, and for a moment he saw something behind hers. A flickering spiral, a shape not born of human thought, hovering in the irises like an eclipse within flame. "You may return to your Chancellor," she said, voice layered with something not entirely her own, "and tell him this planet bows to no throne built from fear." That night the emissary was found dead in his chambers. No wounds, no signs of poison, just a single word carved into the crystalline wall above his body. Virith. And far beneath the sky-glass throne, miles below Viridian's surface, something ancient stirred in the vaults of the forgotten. It was listening, and now it remembered her name. Old friends returned with sharpened smiles. The morning after the emissary's death, Viridian 6 did not mourn. It watched. High above the rising emerald mist of the ocean forests, the sky-glass palace shimmered like a cathedral carved from frozen starlight. Within its mirrored halls, silence reigned, heavy and poised, the kind of silence that does not ask for calm but anticipates chaos. Queen Scarlet Hale stood at the edge of her war table, its smooth obsidian surface flickering with holographic threat projections. 30 red dots, Concord vessels, one for every hour since the emissary's death. They now hovered just outside Viridian's defensive perimeter, close enough to be seen, too far to be fired upon. A message had come, not from an ambassador, not from an underling, but directly from High Chancellor Aaron Valen himself, a name like dust beneath her tongue. They had once been allies, two strategists carved from the same storm. When Earth fell into ecological collapse, they had both led fleets through fire and famine to find new worlds. Viridian was her prize. The Concord was his. Scarlet had carved a kingdom from living oceans. Aaron had carved a throne from submission. In the central chamber of the Queen's war spire, the air shimmered as a transmission link formed. Light coalesced into a human shape, like ghost blood stitching itself together. And then Aaron's face appeared. The man had not aged as she remembered. His once proud eyes were colder, recessed beneath deep creases of calculation. He wore the Concord regalia, a robe of programmable fabric that shifted colors based on audience. Here it wore imperial black. "Scarlet," he said, without a bow, "still making ghosts of men you don't care to answer?" Her lips barely twitched. "They send men I don't need to answer. You, at least, are honest in your threats." Aaron studied her. "Do you deny involvement in Ambassador Holland's death?" Scarlet didn't blink. "Do you deny that he tried to hack into the royal lattice while I slept?" Aaron paused. Silence stretched. "Very well," he said. "We will call it unresolved. But make no mistake, this is the last favor I grant you." He leaned forward, and for a moment the hologram flickered with static. His voice deepened. "You are not the only power that has awakened beneath the crust of your world, Scarlet. Whatever you've touched, it's watching the wrong queen." She tilted her head. "You mean to scare me with riddles?" "I mean to warn you," he said. "There are technologies buried beneath Viridian that predate language. You think they sing for you because you hear their whispers? They sang for the last queen too, and—" They turned her into ash. Her gaze sharpened. "You speak of the Kalari ruins on Thesser?" "Yes," Aaron said, "and of the queen who fell into them and rose up speaking to the void, only to burn her planet to cinders 2 years later." Scarlet's voice was a whisper now. She lacked control. No, she lacked restraint. Aaron's tone hardened. "Which is what you lack now." He gestured to the edges of the projection where red dots, his fleet, began to slowly shift formation. "I will not invade today," he said. "But know this. If Viridian weaponizes what sleeps below, if you breach that vault, the Conquered will bring you to heel. We have silenced gods before." She walked toward the projection until her face was inches from his. "Then bring your gods," she said, her voice like breaking glass, "and I will show you what rises after divinity dies." And with that, the link severed. Later, in her private sanctum, Scarlet stood alone before the Helix archive, a spiraling AI-laced repository that recorded her thoughts, memories, and orders. Her hand hovered above the interface. She did not record the conversation. Instead, she said, "Begin protocol. Vault dissension. Prepare access teams. No council approval. No planetary notification." The Helix pulsed. "Vault dissension protocol requires biometric override." Scarlet's eyes flickered, just briefly, with non-human light. "Override accepted," the archive said. She turned, her silhouette framed by the rising glow of the twin suns. Below, far beneath her throne, the earth rumbled softly, like something exhaling for the first time in 1,000 years. There were places beneath Viridian 6 that did not exist on any star map, nor in any planetary registry, entire biomes sealed in tectonic folds, breathing only once every few millennia, cloaked in silence so dense it could swallow time itself. Beneath the sky-glass throne, miles below the palace, below the oceanic strata, below the basalt roots of the world, lay the vault of 13 echoes. It had no doors, only an invitation, whispered not through language, but instinct. Queen Scarlet. Hale had heard the whisper every night since the last alignment of Velos and Rin. Now she would answer. The descent required 4 clearances, 2 forbidden codes, and 1 blood offering, her own. Draped not in regalia, but in an adaptive descent suit threaded with plasma filament and memory foam mesh, Scarlet stood in the gravity shaft, her body suspended in a cocoon of anti-pressure fields. Engineers above watched through grainy feed lines, silent, pale, their eyes darting from readings they couldn't understand. "Majesty," the chief technician radioed in a low voice, "the temperature is dropping below tolerable thresholds." "It won't matter," Scarlet replied, eyes locked downward. "I won't feel it where I'm going." The shaft gave way to a void tunnel, a vertical abyss, where the planet's crust had been melted clean by some ancient energy long before. Humans walked upright. Glyphs older than language pulsed faintly along the obsidian walls, not carved grown, like coral from a black sea. Scarlet's breath fogged the inside of her helmet as she passed the 13th marker, each one echoing a low harmonic tone that vibrated through her chest. It was not music, it was remembering. Then the voice came again, not through comms, not through ears, but from inside the marrow of her mind. "You are not the first crown. You are not the first fire. You are not the first lie." The vault appeared all at once. There was no grand chamber, no dramatic gate, just a sudden shearing of reality, a fold in space where dimensions bent unnaturally. Her descent stopped, and she stepped sideways into something that did not obey physical laws. It was like entering memory. She stood on a floating obsidian, platform suspended in an infinite black ocean that was also sky, also void, also mirror. The vault's walls flickered in and out of existence, tall monoliths etched with non-Euclidean geometry, too complex for human sight, each one rotating and stopping in sequence like they were watching her. And at the center, a single crystal. Structure 13 meters high, shaped like a spire caught mid-scream. Within it, something pulsed with slow, ancient rhythm. Scarlet stepped forward, and the whispers multiplied. "We burned our suns to wake the signal. We dissolved, matter to glimpse beyond death. We consumed our gods to become what we feared." Scarlet reached out. The crystal spire responded. Fractures laced its surface, glowing from within like veins of molten thought. Her hand hovered just an inch away, and still she could feel its hunger, not for flesh, but for meaning. "Do you wish to command us? Or to be devoured by us? There is no middle." Her fingers brushed the surface. Time collapsed. She was no longer in the vault. She was on a battlefield beneath 2 bleeding suns. She was in a throne room made of bone. She was in a child's crib, her name whispered in fear. She was falling upward through black rain. She was screaming in a voice not her own. And then she was inside a mind, not hers. It saw her, it pierced her, it entered her. "You have the face of the last flame. You are not ready." "But you will be," Scarlet gasped. The suit alarm screamed. The air pressure reversed. Her heart stuttered once, then steadied. The vault was inside her now. She opened her eyes. The crystal was dark again, but now her body felt different, like her cells remembered a sound she hadn't heard yet. Her calm crackled with panic. Majesty, vital signs dropped to near death. "We're pulling you up now." "No," she whispered. Her voice echoed unnaturally, distorted. She didn't know if it was the vault's power or the beginning of her transformation. Perhaps both. She stepped away from the spire, behind. The monoliths turned slightly, as if nodding in recognition or warning. As she ascended back into the crust of the world, Scarlet Hale was not the same. She did not rule Viridian now. She was becoming what Viridian was meant to become. And far above, in the quiet of space, High Chancellor Aaron Valen watched the sky over Viridian darken, though it was noon. He whispered to his command AI, "She found it. Prepare contingency plan, eclipse protocol." Some reflections are not meant to return your gaze. The sky over Viridian 6 had changed. It was subtle at first. A softening of the twin suns. Glow, a dimming halo around the orbital rings. The stars blinked in strange intervals as if skipping across some forgotten rhythm. Scientists said nothing, only stared longer at their screens. The High Council of Viridian sent queries to the Queen's Tower, but received no answers, because Queen Scarlet Hale had not emerged from her sanctum for 6 days. And within those walls, time itself was misbehaving. She stood at the center of her memory. Well, a chamber carved of black quartz and neural glass, where monarchs encoded their lives for posterity. Normally, the walls shimmered with golden pulses of memory, recordings, declarations, state secrets. Now they flickered. Erratically, images surfaced out of sync, voices whispered over each other. Some memories had begun rewriting themselves. Others were playing scenes she had never lived. And then there were the mirrors, 13 of them, unearthed from beneath the vault, carried up in stasis by the retrieval crew under strict order not to look directly at them. They stood like sentinels around her chamber now, each one made of polished obsidian trimmed with an unknown metal that seemed to hum when touched. They did not reflect her image. Instead, each one showed a different Scarlet. The first mirror showed her as a tyrant, draped in blood-red armor, her eyes hollow and gleaming with fire, standing atop a mountain of bones while Viridian burned behind her. The second showed her in chains, kneeling before Chancellor Aaron Valen, her crown shattered, her lips sewn shut. The third showed her as she was now, but surrounded by alien shapes that bowed to her, whispering prayers in a language that sounded like thunder. Each mirror was a possible path, or a warning, she didn't know which. But one, the 13th, remained dark, opaque, cold. That night she slept uneasily in her solarium. The stars above her glimmered through the transparent dome ceiling, but she no longer trusted the constellations to stay where they belonged. When the dream came, it came like a puncture, not a vision. She was 6 again. The air smelled of oil and salt. Her mother's hands were covered in grease and blood, holding together the reactor that would save their colony ship. Scarlet watched her from behind a glass wall, unable to scream, unable to move. Then, flashes, that same hand, now, holding a knife dripping with someone else's blood, a council chamber burning, a crown being forced onto her head. "This was never your path," a voice echoed in the dream. "You stole it from someone who deserved it." She turned. There stood herself, dressed in ragged robes, face bruised, eyes filled with contempt. "You wear power like a skin, not knowing it was meant to be bone." Scarlet jolted awake. Her breath fogged the air. She wasn't in the solarium anymore. The 13th mirror stood before her. Its surface shimmered like a pool of liquid mercury. Something in it pulled her forward, not physically, but gravitationally. Her thoughts bent toward it. Her sense of identity weakened around its edges. A whisper, this time not from the vault, but from somewhere deeper. The first queen entered here too. She looked and never returned. Scarlet stepped forward. The mirror rippled and opened. And in that moment, she stepped through. She found herself in a world inverted. The palace was the same, but wrong. The air was heavy with decay. Roots of some alien fungus crawled along the mirrored walls. The stars above were dead. The ocean had turned to glass. And on the throne she sat, another Scarlet, paler, thinner, but unmistakably her. Only her eyes were completely black. "Welcome," the other said, her voice like wind over broken bone. "I was wondering when I would meet me." Scarlet blinked. "What is this?" "A shard of a possible future," the mirror Scarlet said. "A collapsed branch of time. A place where I failed, where I opened the vault too soon, where I let them all in." Behind the throne the walls pulsed with alien veins, and something moved just beyond the line of vision. "I came here to understand what I've become," Scarlet said. "No," the mirror self whispered. "You came here to choose." The mirror Scarlet stood, her body cracked in places like porcelain over heat. "You will face 3 trials," she said, "one of flesh, one of memory, one of mercy. Fail, and Viridian will not die. It will become something worse." Scarlet stepped forward, chin high. "I've never feared trials." The other smiled, lips split with something not entirely human. "Then your first begins now." And the mirror shattered into 1,000 shards, each one showing a different moment from Scarlet's life, playing in chaos around her like storm debris. Only one shard stayed still. It showed her mother, screaming through a broken hull as flames consumed her. Not the clean, devouring kind. This was the fire of betrayal, of remaking, a blaze that peels away truth, atom by atom, until only the lie remains. Queen Scarlet Hale dropped to her knees as the shard's vision consumed her. She wasn't in the mirror world anymore. She wasn't even in her own skin. Year 3717. The Exodus Bastion, Outer Deck 5, oxygen reserves failing. She was 14, hair matted with coolant, lungs burning from recycled air, saturated with carbon trace. The colony ship moaned with metal fatigue as it drifted between stars, lost after the warp drive collapse. Scarlet's mother, Commander Hale, had locked herself in the fusion chamber to reroute power to life support. "I can stabilize the core," she had said, "but I can't come back out." They'd told Scarlet to stay away, but she had disobeyed, crawling through collapsed vents to reach the chamber viewport. Through a scarred pane, she saw her mother's silhouette bathed in violet light, fighting a machine that didn't want to be saved. Scarlet screamed her name, but the vacuum silenced her, and then, flash, silence. The light died, her mother died, and Scarlet became nothing until now. Because as the memory surged back, she saw something new. A figure, tall, featureless, shadow-wrapped, stood behind her mother in the fusion chamber. It hadn't been there before. No footage had recorded it. It didn't belong to the past, yet there it was. Watching, feeding. "What is this?" Scarlet hissed, stumbling back from the vision shard. From the shadows her mirror self emerged again. Only this time the porcelain cracks in her flesh had widened, leaking silver light. "This is your first trial of flesh." "Not the body you wear, the one you buried." The scene shifted violently. Now Scarlet stood in a sterile biolab watching, as surgeons rebuilt her body after the coronation attempt on her life, the one orchestrated by a now exiled noble house. She remembered this. The scarring, the augmentations, the pain that was measured in hours, not screams, but again, the figure stood just outside the surgical theater. No one noticed it, no alarms triggered. Its presence was worm-like, burrowing into her memory, and now, Scarlet realized, these weren't just visions, they were invasions. "Something has followed me out of the vault," she whispered, "or was already there, waiting." Her mirror self circled her. "You were forged from pain, made to rule through trauma. Every scar became a law, every bone broken became an edict. Scarlet clenched her fists. So, the mirror self said, voice sharp now, what happens when your flesh is no longer yours? When the thing that feeds on your pain decides it deserves the throne more than you? The chamber around her dissolved into blackness. Suddenly, Scarlet couldn't move. She looked down and saw that her body was shifting, her skin turning semi-translucent, veins glowing, bones phasing in and out of visibility. Her cells were mutating. The vault had changed her, but not entirely by choice. Pain lanced through her nerves. Her vision split into triplicate. Her thoughts blurred with something else. Another mind, another presence. A voice hissed within her. We remember fire. We remember blood. Let us wear your crown. Scarlet fell to her knees, gasping, sweat slicking her temples. Every instinct screamed to fight, to claw out the thing inside her. But another voice, fainter, older, rose from deep within, her mother's voice. Control is not strength, Scarlet. Control is fear in uniform. Strength is choice. And in that moment, Scarlet chose. She didn't resist the mutation. She stepped into it. The pain intensified, then fractured like a glass ceiling. Her skin stopped shifting. Her mind reassembled. The presence recoiled. She stood, not fully human, not fully vault-born, but something in between, and when the darkness faded, her mirror self stood silently, watching. The cracks had vanished. The silver light had gone. You passed, the doppelganger said softly. Scarlet exhaled, her voice stronger than before. What was it? Not a parasite, not a god, a remnant, something left behind in the vault long ago, waiting for a mind like yours to imprint on. It wanted my throne? No, said the mirror self, fading into mist. It wanted your shape. Scarlet awoke in the real world, inside her sanctum. Her body ached. Her heart felt foreign, but when she looked in the mirror, her eyes had changed, not in color, in depth. They no longer reflected light. They remembered it. In orbit above Viridian, aboard the dreadnought Eris Ascendant, Chancellor Aaron Valen reviewed the new biometric scans from the Queen's palace. He froze. She's activated the vault bloodline, his AI muttered. Impossible, Valen said. No, came the AI's solemn reply. I believe she has become its first true heir. The chamber of memory did not wait for her. It found her in her sleep. No warning, no whisper, only a single word carved into the inside of her mind like a blade across stone. Enter. And so Queen Scarlet Hale, bearer of the vault mark, stepped into the trial of memory. Not through a door, but through herself. It began in silence. Not the silence of solitude, but the kind found in vacuum. A hush so pure, even thoughts feared to echo. She floated in a void of glass, a space where time had no friction. Stars hung frozen like prey, caught in webbing. Before her, a hallway, familiar, the Academia spire, Viridian 6. She had spent her formative years here, before the throne, before the blood, before the fire. She had loved it, she had hated it, she had forgotten it. Until now. The floor beneath her was smooth and obsidian, lit by glowing filaments that pulsed in sync with her heartbeat. But something was wrong. The portraits on the walls, once filled with scholars and monarchs, had changed. Each one was a portrait of her at different ages, in different lives. In one she was a child smiling, cradling a crystal-eyed fox. In another she wore a soldier's garb, face smeared with soot. In one she was dead, eyes open, lips sewn shut. And in the final painting, the largest, she was gone, only. Her crown remained, resting in a pool of ink that slowly bled across the canvas. Scarlet reached for it, and the hallway shattered. Now she stood in a replica of her private memory vault, a forbidden structure that no one else had ever entered. Only this time, doors lined the walls, each one etched with symbols of the Fraxan dialect, a dead alien tongue from before human expansion. Each symbol meant one thing: locked truths. The first door opened. Inside, a scene unfolded. She was 8, hiding beneath a rusted air shaft on orbital station Kiris, listening to her father sell her future to a smuggler in exchange for safe passage. "You can break her," he said. "She's not like her mother. She folds." The memory burned her. But she did not look away. "You must feel it all," came the voice from nowhere. "The vault never accepts half-truths." The second door revealed her first kill. Not in battle, not in defense, but silently, in the night, with poison. A noblewoman who had plotted to enslave Viridian's water colonies. Scarlet was only 16. She watched herself mix the compound with trembling hands, then steady herself before delivering the fatal dose. No one ever suspected. She buried that truth deep until now. The third door swung open violently. Scarlet braced herself and saw something she had never seen before, a secret not from her memory, but someone else's. She stood in a dark throne room, not hers, but eerily similar. Shadows writhed along the edges like living ink. A man kneeled before a figure cloaked in radiant machinery. That figure turned, looked directly at Scarlet. It was her, but older, tired, yet her presence shook the air like collapsing stars. And behind this older Scarlet stood a fleet, not of Viridian, not of any known world, alien, silent, waiting. "You must choose which future to remember," the older Scarlet said. "Memory is power, memory is prophecy, and memory can lie." The illusion broke. Scarlet collapsed. The vault dissolved around her. The floor became mist. The air turned to vapor. Now she was in a field of floating shards, each a memory, each whispering its truth, 100,000 voices, 1,000 betrayals, some hers, some not. And then she saw it, a memory that was not hers, yet lived in her mind. She stood beside Chancellor Aaron Valen. They were younger, laughing, drinking, planning, not as enemies but allies. He leaned toward her, whispered, "The vault must be sealed forever. If it opens, the old things will return. Even you, Scarlet, will not survive what lives beneath. Time." And then she watched herself nod, agree, swear the oath, carve the sigil of forgetting into her own chest. She had agreed to forget, agreed to lose this memory, to protect the universe. And yet, here it was, returned. "I swore to keep it closed," Scarlet whispered aloud, trembling. "But I opened it anyway." "Because something broke you," came the mirror self's voice, now soft, almost compassionate. "The pain, the ambition, the loneliness, they changed your choice." Scarlet knelt among the fragments of herself. She had failed her past self, and yet— "Do you still want the throne?" her mirror asked. Scarlet stood, straightened her Rialf back, lifted her chin. "Yes." "Then take the memory," the mirror said. "Make it your weapon." The shards flew into her, cutting, fusing, embedding into her bones. She screamed, but did not fall. The vault mark on her hand ignited, becoming a full spiral around her wrist, crawling toward her elbow like a circuit of truth, and then silence again, but this time not empty. Full, whole. Scarlet woke in her chamber, tears on her cheeks, blood on her palm. A single word etched into the stone beside her bed. Remember, in the cold orbit of Viridian, aboard the Iris Ascendant, Aaron Valen stared at the sky. "She's broken the seal," he whispered. "Shall I initiate the counter-protocol?" his AI asked. Valen shook his head slowly. "No. Let her remember everything. Let her reclaim all her power." "Why?" "Because when she finds the truth beneath it all," he said, turning away, "it will destroy her." The first step was silence, the kind that grips your throat and buries your heart beneath cold stone. Queen Scarlet Hale stood on the precipice of her throne room, the great dome above reflecting fractured stars and distant constellations, none of which she recognized anymore. The vault had rewritten her, bone, blood, and memory, but now it demanded one final reckoning, the trial of mercy. The chamber was not empty. It was filled with ghosts, not of the dead, but the living wounded, a gallery of faces from the wars she had fought, the decisions she had made. Rebels whose cities burned under her command, allies she betrayed to save her people, friends turned enemies, innocents sacrificed on the altar of survival. They stood at the edges of the room, their eyes hollow but burning with accusation. Scarlet's voice was calm but heavy. "Why have you come?" From the shadows stepped Kellen Dray, once her fiercest general, now a broken man who had turned his blade against her. His scarred face was a map of battles lost and promises broken. "To ask," he said, "if the queen who commands the stars can still hear the cries beneath them." Behind him the others shifted, warriors, diplomats, civilians, all waiting. The trial was not a battlefield. It was a court without judges, and the verdict was already written in the silence. Scarlet walked among them, every step echoing in the cavernous hall. Each face told a story. Lyria, a water colony leader whose fields were flooded to power the sky-glass dome. Jax, a spy turned traitor, whom Scarlet spared despite his treason. Aaron, a childhood friend who died alone, abandoned during a purge. They did not speak, but the weight of their presence crushed the air. Her mind raced back to the moments she had shut away, the decisions no ruler dared revisit. She remembered ordering the blockade that starved an entire sector. She remembered silencing the rebellion with weapons that seared flesh and will. She remembered the price of survival. Mercy withheld. "Mercy," Scarlet said softly, "is a luxury no queen can afford." Kellen's voice was bitter. "Is that what you tell yourself when you look in the mirror? That the blood on your hands was necessary? That the people who suffer are just collateral?" She stopped. For the first time in months, she lowered her gaze. The memories surged again, this time not as visions, but as feelings. Pain, regret, loneliness. A child's cry swallowed by silence, the mother who died trying to save a ship, the friend whose hand she refused, and then something unexpected. A hand touched her shoulder, soft, warm. It was Lyria, the water colony leader, her eyes filled not with hate, but understanding. "Even the strongest queens break," Lyria whispered. "But mercy is the bridge that rebuilds." Scarlet closed her eyes. The vault's fire raged within her, but now it tempered against the cool weight of mercy. "I am not my past," she said, "nor the shadows that cling to it." Turning, she faced Kellen. "I offer you a choice." She said, "Return to my side, not as a servant, but as a partner. Help me heal what I have broken." He hesitated. Then, slowly, he nodded. The ghosts faded. The chamber brightened. The stars outside aligned once more, bathing the dome in pure light. In her sanctum, Scarlet placed a hand on the vault mark, spiraling up her arm. It pulsed gently, no longer a weapon, but a heartbeat. Her reign was no longer just of fire and shadow. It was of choice. Above Viridian, in the shadowed decks of the Eris Ascendant, Chancellor Eron Valen watched the shifting constellations with a grim smile. "She's becoming what?" "We feared," he muttered. "And yet," his AI replied, "she may also become what we need." The corridors of the sky-glass throne were colder than usual, as if the palace itself held its breath in anticipation. Scarlet Hale moved through the marble halls with measured steps, the soft hum of the vault mark pulsating beneath her skin, a subtle rhythm, like a heartbeat synced with the very planet she ruled. Outside, the twin suns, Velos and Rin, hung low on the horizon, their light fractured into shards of crimson and gold. The day was ending, but the real dusk was arriving in the form of a visitor long believed dead, or worse, forgotten. Eron Valen's envoy arrived without ceremony, slipping past layers of security with the silence of a shadow. Scarlet awaited him in the Grand Council chamber, a room vast enough to hold the weight of 100 histories, yet intimate enough to magnify every word. When the doors slid open, the envoy stepped in, A woman clad in conquered armor, her face veiled but her eyes burning with a fierce intelligence. "Queen Scarlet," she began, her voice steady yet carrying a trace of hesitation. "I am Commander Alara Wren. I bring a message and a warning." Scarlet inclined her head slightly, folding her hands. "Proceed." Alara's gaze sharpened. "The Concord does not seek war," she said. "Not yet. But the events beneath your world, your opening of the vault, have awakened forces that threaten the entire sector." She produced a holographic display, swirling images of ancient star systems caught in violent eruptions and a web of tendrils expanding through space. An interstellar contagion of unknown origin. "These forces are not merely relics of the past," Alara explained. "They are sentient, adaptive, and they are spreading." Scarlet's eyes narrowed, absorbing the magnitude of the threat. "Your Chancellor warned me of such things," she said softly, "yet you speak as if this is new." "Because it is," Alara said. "The Conquered has kept the truth buried beneath layers of deceit. The Vault's power is not unique to Viridian. It is part of a network, a galactic crucible forged in the fires of creation and destruction." "And you expect me to believe this?" Scarlet's voice was steady, but a flicker of doubt whispered beneath it. "No," Alara replied, lowering her voice. "I expect you to survive." A tense silence stretched between them, the air thick with unspoken questions. "What do you want from me?" Scarlet asked at last. "Alliance," Alara said, "and not as a supplicant, but as a sovereign. The Concord's fleets are stretched thin. Your vault-born powers may be the key to halting the spread, but only if you agree to share the burden." The chamber's walls shimmered as Scarlet considered the proposal. In her mind, the faces of her people flashed, the rebels, the innocents, the ghosts she had just reconciled with. To accept would mean opening old wounds. To refuse could mean extinction. She met Alara's eyes. "Very well, Commander. We have much to discuss." As the envoy departed, a new transmission flickered to life on Scarlet's console. It was from the 13th mirror, the dark reflection she had glimpsed in the vault. "They come," it whispered, "but so do you, far beyond Viridians. Skies in the silent void where stars are born and die." The echoes of ancient wars stirred once more, and Queen Scarlet Hale stood at the edge of a new dawn, her power, her mercy, and her memories bound to the fate of worlds yet unseen. The days that followed Commander Alara Wren's visit were marked by a tension so thick it could be sliced with a blade. The sky-glass throne hummed with activity, but beneath the polished veneer of diplomacy, fractures rippled through Viridian's fragile peace. Scarlet sat alone in the War Spire's observation chamber, the planet's sprawling ocean forests glowing beneath her like veins of emerald fire. The vault mark on her wrist pulsed softly, an echo of power and a reminder of the burden she bore. A sharp chime interrupted her reverie. The holographic interface flickered alive with the image of Alara Wren, her face now unmasked, revealing sharp features etched with lines of worry and resolve. "Your Majesty," Alara began, voice urgent, "we face threats both without and within." Scarlet's gaze hardened. "Explain." Alara's expression darkened. "Not all within the Concord see this alliance as a path to salvation. Many view the Vault's power with fear and envy. Factions within our own ranks plot to seize control, to weaponize what we barely understand." "Then our enemies multiply," Scarlet replied, "and our allies are few." "Indeed." The hologram shifted, revealing encrypted transmissions, intercepted by conquered intelligence, encrypted messages, plans, betrayals. "These are seeds of rebellion," Alara said grimly. "The Conquered's civil war has already begun in the shadows." Scarlet absorbed the data, mind racing through stratagems and countermeasures. That evening, the High Council convened under Scarlet's command. Voices clashed like storm winds, loyalists demanding swift action, skeptics warning of overreach. When the room settled, Scarlet's voice rose above the cacophony. We will not fracture under fear. We will not be pawns in a game of shadows. The vault has shown me what lies beneath the surface of power, truth, pain, and choice. She paused, eyes sweeping the chamber. We forge our own destiny. Let those who wish to plot come into the light. Let their schemes be revealed and their loyalties tested. Outside the chamber, Scarlet found herself alone with her thoughts, and a message waiting on her console. It was from an unknown sender, a single phrase glowing in crimson text. The 13th echo awaits. In the depths of Viridian's underground vaults, far from the gaze of sun and star, something ancient stirred. The 13 monoliths had begun to resonate in unison, a deep, sonorous tone that vibrated through the planet's core. The vault was awakening. High above, aboard the Eris Ascendant, Chancellor Aaron Velan watched the escalating chaos with cold satisfaction. Let them tear themselves apart, he murmured. Only then will true order rise. His eyes flicked to a containment chamber where a shimmering figure lay restrained, an echo of the vault's power, waiting for its moment. And on Viridian, Queen Scarlet Hale clenched her fists, feeling the weight of the fractured alliance settle on her shoulders. The battle was no longer just for survival, it was for the soul of a galaxy. When the sky darkens, even the brightest stars must decide their fate. The winds of Viridian carried a cold bitterness that day, sharp and unyielding as the countless battles etched into the planet's history. Queen Scarlet Hale stood upon the battlements of the sky-glass throne, her crimson cloak fluttering like a living flame against the swirling twilight. The vault mark on her wrist pulsed steadily, and a unrelenting drumbeat beneath her skin, a reminder of the power she wielded and the burden it bore. Below, the city buzzed with anxious anticipation. News had spread that the Concord fleet would arrive within the solar cycle, their weapons gleaming cold under twin suns. Their arrival signaled hope for some, but for others, a harbinger of further conflict. In the Great Hall, the Queen convened her closest advisors. Strategists, diplomats, and warriors gathered, their faces etched with worry and determination. Reports from the border sectors indicate increased activity. General Kellandre said, his voice grave. Scouts confirm that the ancient threat is mobilizing. The monoliths beneath Viridian pulse in synchronization. The vault is awakening fully. Scarlet's eyes narrowed. Then, we have little time. Outside the hall, a messenger arrived with urgent news. A fleet of unknown vessels had been detected on the outskirts of the system, moving with calculated precision. Alara Wren entered swiftly, her expression unreadable. They do not bear the Concord's markings. This is something new. Scarlet's mind raced. The delicate alliances she had forged, the fragile peace, all threatened by an enemy she had yet to understand. She turned to her council. Prepare the defenses, but also send envoys, not just of war, but of parley. We must learn what forces have joined the shadow beneath. That night, in her private chamber, Scarlet stood before the largest mirror, the one that had once shown her fractured futures. Now it shimmered with a new image, a swirling vortex of stars with a silhouette at its center, a figure cloaked in darkness, eyes glowing like twin supernovas. A voice echoed from the depths of the vault inside her. They come for the crown, for the power, for the truth you hold. Be ready, Queen. As the twin suns set, the first fires of war ignited across the horizon. The gathering storm was no longer a prophecy. It was upon them. Far above, in the cold vacuum of space, the Eris Ascendant readied its weapons. Chancellor Velan's eyes gleamed with ruthless resolve. Let the games begin, he whispered. Beneath the surface of Viridian, the 13 monoliths pulsed in unison, their resonance rippling through the planet, a song of awakening, of reckoning, and of inevitable change. Queen Scarlet Hale's reign had entered its most perilous chapter, and as the storm gathered strength, she stood ready to face whatever fate the stars would cast.